All right, hello everyone. Welcome to our 30th video session. Today we're going to be solving a series of challenges for Lilia Pozos, who's the founder of Your Green Mermaid. But before we get started, let's go through some brief introductions on who's on this call right now, and some people might come in and join later, so we'll ask them to introduce themselves then as well. So, Bethany, can you go first? Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Bethany. I just moved to Washington, D.C., so I'm in a new location now. um, I'm working for the federal government, mostly in financial analysis, but I'm interested in like economic development and refugee and migrant rights mostly.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Roger, you want to go next?
Sure, I'm Roger, and congrats Bethany on getting out of Wisconsin. I'm Roger. I have something called Idea Check. We work with early stage founders. We get them to 15K in revenue just for equity only in the project, no cash. They don't have to raise money from investors.
Cool. Thank you, Roger. Maribel, do you want to go next?
Oops. Hi, can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so my name is Maribel Rodriguez. I teach social entrepreneurship, and I also do photo essays like Love for Immigrants, showing the value immigrants bring through photography. And recently, We All Belong. So, and the question of where have people sense a feeling of belonging? Thank you, that's all.
Cool. Thank you, Maribel. Kayla, do you want to go next?
Sure. My name's Kayla. I'm currently studying documentary filmmaking at DePaul in Chicago. And something that I'm really interested in is just kind of helping people grow as individuals through like personal development, and also showcasing, or not showcasing, but just sharing people's stories in order to kind of create like a more interconnected society and bridge the gaps between the divisions between people.
Very cool. And Sukanya, do you want to go?
Yes. Sorry, I had an issue with my Wi-Fi, so I was like 5 minutes late. Hi, I'm one of the co-founders of Impaction. I'm based in Dallas, Texas. I work as an HR journalist for a small, mid-sized firm. Nice meeting you all. Hi.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go through this presentation very briefly on like what ultimately Your Mermaid is achieving, and then Lily, I'll ask you to like put your own take on it and introduce yourself as well. So let me start sharing my screen. Okay, cool. So ultimately, like we're solving a challenge for Lilia Pozos today, but Your Green Mermaid is a platform about sustainable lifestyle, zero waste, and non-toxic beauty. Their mission is to raise awareness about climate change, the environment, and plastic pollution. They recently launched a line of eco-friendly products that are 100% ethically made and sustainably sourced. They also host events around these topics and educate people on how to recycle correctly and transition to a more eco-friendly lifestyle. So that's a little bit about Your Green Mermaid, but Lilia, do you want to add anything to your introduction?
Yes, well, first of all, thank you for your time and a Sunday. I know that we all have very busy agendas and schedules, so I'm really grateful to have all you here. And yes, my name is Lilia Pozos. I'm originally from Mexico City. I moved to Miami 3 years ago for personal reasons, and then my background is in communications and public relations, and I started to play the entrepreneurship world some months ago, and it's hard and it's tough because you are very passionate about what you do, your project and everything, but then when you go out to the world, you find out that many people don't care about that mission, or that it's the environment, it's the planet, we all are affected by that, but of course people have different priorities. So I'm very passionate about this. I started to educate people doing events here in Miami, posting that on social media, and then I created like the social media just for Your Green Mermaid. And then I launched these products with the Idea Center at Miami-Dade College. So it has been a really cool journey, and I'm trying to figure out how this is done because, again, I have never been an entrepreneur myself. So yeah, that's me. I also do digital marketing. I love like studying and getting educated about all different topics around communication, social media, and all of that. So yeah, that's a little bit of me. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Lilia. So ultimately, can you outline some challenges that you're facing? I know you gave us like 3 or so sentences is about different challenges you're facing, but if you wanted to start with the first one, and then we can like start with our feedback session from there, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll say first of all is like the mission and the problem, because ultimately my main mission and goal is to raise that awareness in people about the plastic pollution and let them know that every day just in the United States 600 million single-use plastics between straws and cutlery and utensils are used just on a daily basis and just here in the US. And actually 2018 was the first year where straws and plastic cutlery ranked into the top 5 of most polluting items in the coasts in the world. So, but I know that, and my goal and my mission is to tell people what is the problem, because like this, when I moved here from Mexico, I was like overwhelmed of the overconsumption culture of everything, of fashion, of food, or now next week is Thanksgiving, and in Thanksgiving, more than 30% of the food is actually wasted. So all this around sustainability and about how to be more conscious, it's one of the challenges that I've seen a lot, because people are very used to what they do every day, and all that is convenient, like plastic, where you can use just once and then throw it away, and you don't need to clean it, you don't need to do anything else. So like changing that mindset of the people, telling them, okay, you need to switch your activities or your habits in order to be less convenient, because it's not convenient to carry your own water bottle. It's easier to just grab a plastic bottle, then drink it, and then throw it away. So for me, that's kind of difficult to tell people, stop what you're doing and then change your habits in order to be more sustainable. So I think that's one. I don't know if I should go to the other ones or just like go one by one. You tell me.
Yeah, we can start with the first one, more of like a behavioral change. So like, yeah, how can we start convincing people to start making behavioral change? Is it through awareness, education? Like, what is the step that will spur people to action? What does everyone think?
Can I suggest my idea?
Yeah, go for it.
So since you're staying in Florida, I would say you should partner with the public schools out there, where you educate the children about the hazards of plastic pollution, and in turn they educate their family members, their parents, and everyone around them about the hazards of plastic pollution. And it's a way to reduce it, and you can track your impact metrics of how many people are implementing this steps at their home and everything, of not using straws and other things, and you can see how effective that is actually. And you can also partner with a school for on a long-term basis to reduce the use of plastics in their campuses. So that's one of my suggestion. And you can also partner with other small organizations that is aiming to reduce plastic in Florida, and try to create more awareness. And I believe, and the only way to change this is through awareness and educating people on a continual basis. So this would be my suggestion.
Yeah, partnerships is one way, definitely. Like even trying to maybe facilitate activities and workshops that are more like game friendly for kids. Even if you wanted to set something up in your like right by your house or in your neighborhood, and ultimately be like, oh, here's a fun educative game that can also highlight the effects of plastic pollution on the environment. I'm sure that there are a lot of like activities that can, especially if there are kids in like the neighborhood, even adults end up liking to take time to play games, especially on the weekends, maybe Saturdays or Sundays. If you set up a workshop or a station there, just be like, instead of saying that, oh, I'm trying to get you to do this, this, be like, oh, I bet that you can't win this game or something like that, and then maybe there's like a lesson tied to that.
One thing I was thinking too, because this is such a like big issue that infiltrates every area of life, it can be really overwhelming to talk about the million different problems that fall under like the climate change and like waste umbrella. So focusing on like small things that people can do is like the best way, because even I like try to be very conscious, but it's impossible because everything is so intertwined to like completely reduce waste. Like it's very easy as like a consumer to get overwhelmed because it filters through all areas of your life. So focusing on really small goals for people and like making it easy for them to wrap their brain around what the thing is. So like if excuse me, if you make the thing for them like plastic straws and they can focus on just doing that one thing, like that, they'll start to see that it's not that hard to adapt to like some of those smaller things, and then that can trickle. I mean, even for me, it's really easy to get overwhelmed by like how big the problem is and how many areas it affects. And so I think kind of the like small is all motto is good with this sort of goal. And I agree, like partnerships and focusing on like kids' education is a good way to get that stuff to kind of filter through. It's going to be a lot easier for younger people to adapt to like new things than it is for older people to begin with. And so if you start that little by little, it'll become more comfortable. But yeah, I think small attainable goals is always the way to go. So whether that be like plastic bottles or plastic straws or whatever the thing is, and people can even pick. But I think making it clear how big the impact of even just a small thing, like finding out the statistics of like if this many people stop using plastic straws, like what's the impact of that? People might see that just that one thing will be enough, and then they can like that positive reinforcement will kind of follow that, if that makes sense.
Roger, go for it.
Oh, okay. I actually had a quick question. Is the sustainability presentation bringing up awareness? Is that a marketing strategy to sell the cutlery, or is the cutlery a marketing strategy to promote the sustainability thesis?
I think it's because I started 1 year ago creating this awareness and making these educational events. And then some months ago, I came out with the idea of creating something that will resonate to all the people that are already following me and that are going to my events. I was like, I want to become more sustainable, and I have these other options because the cutlery kits are not a new thing. There's a lot of others that sell these things, but I wanted to create something as sustainable as possible and not shipping things from overseas. So that's why I then started to create like this concept with only handmade and sustainably sourced items. So and then now I'm like keep educating people with that, which is my main goal. But then I can say like, oh, and by the way, if you're looking for something that you can do in order to reduce your plastic pollution, here you have like this item that you can use, so you can never need another plastic cutlery or utensil. That's kind of how it
Right.
goes.
so just to kind of frame the question just slightly differently is, are you starting with a conversation with people about sustainability and then saying, and here, buy these to support that, or are you using the cutlery as to open the door so that you can have a longer conversation about sustainability? Do you understand?
Yeah, it's the first one that you said. That's like the strategy. Like the cutlery, it's like secondary, and it's like, oh well, and I have this. It's not the other way around.
Okay. So you have the sustainability conversation, and then you upsell the cutlery. Okay.
Yes.
And how? So I guess I think there's some really great conversations on how to spread like other funnels to spread the awareness side, and I'm curious about, because selling cutlery, you don't necessarily have to educate people about sustainability in order to, like, if you need a fork, you need a fork. So I'm wondering how extensive the strategy is to go product first and see how much you can push that. Are you seeing, and I don't know if you want to disclose numbers, but are you seeing like solid sales of the cutlery?
I'm offering, well, my offerings is like the kit itself. For example, yesterday I was at an event and I was asked, look, how much do you sell just the pouches? And I have never sold that like separately. And I was like, I don't know. And I just came out with a number like, okay, you can have the pouch just for 15, which is like, for example, I have some of them here, which are the different fabrics. And then people ask me, oh, I already have a lot of cutlery and I don't need the cutlery, but I just need the pouch to put my own cutlery there. And I was like, okay, because a lot of people are already doing that, like taking their own cutlery and just wrapping that on a napkin or on a Ziploc bag and then go to work. So, for example, I've been asked that, and I was like, yeah, $15 for only the pouch. And then, well, the cutlery, I haven't sold them by itself, just like with the pouch. And then I have also other straw bags with just like the straw parts. So it's like a straw cleaner, and the bag. That is like a very cheap price. It's $12. So then people have bought a lot of them. Because the investment, well, the kit itself costs $40. So then for them, it's like, oh, I don't know if I want to spend $40 now on this, but it's easier for them to just buy a straw kit that costs $12. But I have seen different, depending on the event and the audience. For example, I have had events where people bought 5 of the kits at $40, and then other events that I don't sell any kit, but I sell like 10 or 12 just straw kits, which for them it's like easier.
Okay, I guess maybe it's a longer conversation, but I'd want to know more about what the strategy is to increase total sale volume, and then see how well that translates into having the sustainability argument afterwards, or not argument, but the kind of presentation afterwards. And we probably can't do that here on the phone, but I guess my suggestion is consider a product first approach rather than an ethic first approach in some markets, and just see how that affects.
Okay.
Maybe gives you more. Maybe it works. I don't know. I wonder if that will work. Okay.
Thank you.
So it seems like you have a good amount of suggestions. Maribel, do you have another one?
Yes, I do. And I just want to say that I'm on a bus, so I might lose reception. If that happens, just please feel free to move on. If I want to ask about who you wanted to work with originally, whether it's children and families, adults. I just wanted to get a sense of that.
Yeah, for example, now my target market, the one that I have in my head and the one that I have more research, it's mainly women because of the fabric itself, like very colorful. So it's more for women now, although I'm looking to offer another kind of designs more for men. So it's mainly women now here in Miami or in South Florida because I don't have an online store. Eventually, I will, of course, love to do that. But since I'm now like on the test product market fit and actually changing the design and everything because I'm collecting a lot of feedback from customers. So I would say women between 20 to 35 years who are already like in the green mindset and are looking for products that can help them reduce their waste and that are also as well ethically sourced. But of course I have also a lot of men that have bought like those straws or the bags. So it's more like I would say millennial or late millennial people because whenever people come to the events and they see the products, they always like every time I go to an event, there's always somebody that tells me, "Oh, my kid or my grandson or my baby is always telling me like, oh, don't use that plastic straw, don't use that plastic cutlery." And so I see that the younger people are already on that mindset, and a lot of women say like, oh, this is for example, yesterday one woman told me like, oh, tomorrow it's my son's birthday and I know that he will love this and he's like 16. And I was like, okay, so younger people are already like on that mindset, but older people are the ones who is very hard to convince to change their habits. So I will say it's between that from the people that are already on that mindset that know that bringing their own cutlery is something that they can just add from bringing their water bottle or something else with them.
Thank you. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I want to ask because depending on who you work with, you might want to use different strategies. I do see the group that you're working with needing more of just motivation and remembering why they're doing this, because with a fast-paced life, they can forget to continue the habits. Even like myself, I try to make those steps, and some days are not perfect, and it's reaching a goal. So with that, I think with that group, be some kind of workshop to help build habits, since they already want to do this kind of, or they already want to live this kind of lifestyle. And also researching about like behavioral science and habit formation and what motivates people might be really helpful, because as much as people want to do something idealistically in their day-to-day, they might slip because of some like real need that they have, or some life circumstance that they're going through. So I would say like focusing on that, and storytelling can also be like a huge aspect, especially for women, if that's part of your target audience. I find that if you show the impact that this pollution or this kind of waste is having on families and children in other parts of the world, or even in this part of the world, if you can find photographs or information that might really help them just feel it more than just, instead of just thinking about it intellectually, they can really see how this really affects families just like theirs, and in other circumstances. So that's part of it. But also, motivational things like having a motivational speaker that maybe has gone through this process of learning how to build these things into him or her life, and can inspire them or something like that. These things might work, maybe or not, but you can try it out and see. And yeah, for people that don't want to be a part of this, it would be a harder thing to try to do. Maybe not impossible, but perhaps if they're invited and they start the conversation and see how other people are actually doing this, I think part of the hurdle is a lot of people that don't want to, they just don't see how it can be done. So they just say, I don't want to do this. Because I've had that with my mom and my dad, who are 70, and I tried to get them to, donate things and, go through this kind of like, getting rid of, I would say waste in the home, and give it to people. It's not waste, it's good things, but give it to people that might need it more. And they didn't want to do that until they saw me actually take those steps, and then they saw the possibility and asked me to help them. So I think part of it, the hurdle is the confidence in knowing how to do something.
That's really good advice, specifically trying to differentiate the people who don't want to purchase your product or adapt this lifestyle, and the reasons why they don't, like unpacking that, but also differentiating, do you want to, like with your target customer base, which are women who have already adopted this type of lifestyle, or at least know that that is like the most sustainable way to go, that message for that group will be different than your education trainings for students in schools. So when you do partner with organizations, schools, or if you are going in that way, you have to first understand, like, you have limited time and energy, so which one, like, what is your end goal? Is it to maximize impact through your products, or is it going to be to educate people to adopt this lifestyle? Like right off the bat, you won't be able to hit two birds with one stone, especially if you're trying to partner with schools. But if you want to grow and sustain your product, then you might as well target, like you already have your customer base who already knows that the lifestyle is the one that, like, the sustainable lifestyle is the one that they want to pursue, right? So you should hit that market and be a big fish in that market, and then bring other students and partners on board when you have reached that customer base in sales. So schools will more likely open their doors to you, and you would be able to translate your messages to the next generation.
Yeah, unless you want to do something like Avon does, I could see that working out, like having other people sell the product and training people on how to do that, and that, you know, they have a, you know, they pay by how much they sell or something, and then in the other sense, like partnering with schools so that they can create their own clubs and use their internal resources, like the own teachers that are really passionate about this, but maybe haven't, you know, collaborated with anyone yet to find that person that can guide them through, you know, how awareness looks like. But I think a lot of teachers have to teach this at some point, so they might already know. So it's just kind of maybe finding more creative ways to do what you want to do, if you really want to do both at the same time. If not, like Shivani said, maybe one step at a time.
Let's move on to our second question, because the second question was also kind of answered. But how can Lilia market an eco-friendly lifestyle in a way that's not only affordable but necessary to purchase by a consumer? I think we kind of touched on that, but does anyone have any additional thoughts in regards to that particular challenge? It's not expensive to have a sustainable lifestyle. How can we change the narrative around that? I think for once, like Bethany was talking about small digestible solutions. So like maybe instead, like your cutlery is like a way for people to like instead of buying plastic straws and spoons, they can bring it from home and it's not an additional weight or burden. Maybe instead of maybe replacing styrofoam cups with paper cups, you know, like they're actually paper cups may be just like $1 or more expensive. And then maybe marketing in a way to show that, okay, these are the repercussions of styrofoam cups versus paper cups, and this is what happens to the environment. Is an extra buck really worth that much to you? I don't know, like something like that, like a comparison chart, and being able to, if you have active social media, like make that a regular strategy just to get people to think a little bit differently about what their environmental, what their like consumer power really is, and how much that can make a difference.
I think I think the other thing is like outside of the moral argument for this, like there is an economic argument to using reusable stuff. So whether it's a water bottle or cutlery or straws or whatever it is, you're going to be buying that stuff anyway. If you buy bottled water all the time, I mean bottled water is cheap, but like you are still paying for it. And so investing in cutlery, if that's the thing, like there are economic benefits to not having to buy water bottles or cutlery or whatever it is anymore. And it will take time to kind of like see the benefits of that investment. But if you like stop having to buy plastic silverware or plastic straws or whatever the things are, there's no more expense after you do that one-time purchase. So kind of maybe focusing a little bit on the economic argument. It's not really that expensive. You only have to buy it once and then you don't have to buy it ever again. So that may be another route to go outside of just the moral argument of like it's the right thing to do for the earth. There also is like an economic development to like a more sustainable lifestyle as well.
There's something that I like an experience that I had in class. It was an advertising class, and they were basically going over a problem that these advertisers had to encounter, which was they were focusing on trying to get pregnant women to stop smoking, and they were focusing on it by showing like all the effects that it could have on the baby, and kind of like blaming the mother. And it didn't work. Nothing changed. And then they started to really kind of like go to the mothers and actually ask them, okay, so like just kind of getting a sense of their lifestyle, and realizing that for these particular women, they had like a lot of stressors in their life, a lot of things to pay attention to, a lot of things going on at home, a lot of work. And so smoking was their stress reliever. And it was the only thing that they could do, which was unconscious, that made them feel like they had kind of control or a sense of like what was, just like kind of have a sense of control in their life. And so instead, what the advertisers did is, what did they do? They were marketing like, like other approaches or other things they could do and showing like different support things or resources that the mothers could go to. And that helped a lot. So the translation of how this relates to the environmental concerns is to really ask people like what, like just kind of get a sense of their lifestyle and what is stressing them out and stuff like that, and meet them where they're at in terms of like, oh, like you might be just kind of going through school or something and it's super stressful and like, oh no, but maybe like here's this product that will help this concern that you have. So I don't have anything specific in my mind right now, but to just like pay attention to the group that you're targeting and what their needs are and what their lifestyle is, so that you can kind of meet them where they're at and give them something that helps them, like go through their lifestyle and feel like they've, got it together, like, giving that sense of helping people too. But yeah, I just think that's an important thing to think about.
I really love that idea. I think that the more we speak to people, the more that we understand like where the struggles are. And if you haven't yet already asked the question, like what are the barriers when you're trying to live a greener lifestyle or something like that, and maybe you'll discover that there's a gap between your product and their action, and there might be some other thing in between, like like she said, it could be work related, or it could be like stress related, or mental well-being, and maybe they don't have the capacity at the moment to just like deal with putting these kind of new things in place. So I think with that, I'm curious to know like how many people you spoke with, if at all, and like what kinds of things that they mentioned already were hurdles for them.
Yeah, I mean that's I don't know if somebody else wants to add before
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, during my class where I was developing this, the idea of getting out of the building, because sometimes entrepreneurs spend a lot of time developing the product itself when they should be spending more time on the customer development side, asking people, going out. So I need to keep researching on this and to talk to people. What I did, I went to a store which is everything about refill. So you go there to refill your shampoo, your food, everything about sustainability, and like all the lifestyle. So I went there various weekends to ask people why are they buying the this sustainable lifestyle, because it's expensive sometimes. Of course, if you're gonna refill a shampoo, it's not expensive, but if you're gonna refill superfoods or something like that, it is expensive. So I spent some time like creating like a kind of questionnaire for people, like where do you eat? Because for example, I realized that a lot of people here, at least in Miami, they eat out of their own houses. They are entrepreneurs or freelancers, and they will just grab their own cutlery and then eat there. But for example, for weekends, a lot of people ask for takeout food, and then they have like the plastic cutlery. And then for gatherings, for parties, for barbecues, um, of course, in these like gatherings of a lot of people, uh, eventually, of course, like almost all the times, you will be receiving or you will be using a plastic one. So it's not maybe something that they may use every day, but on weekends or when traveling, when they go out or on a food truck or like this. And here in Miami, there's still some restaurants. It doesn't matter if you dine in, they still give you plastic. It's not just for takeout or just for like drive-through. It's like there are places which are still giving plastic, even plastic bowls or plastic cutlery whenever you're dining in. So it's I agree that I need to keep understanding their pain points and their lifestyle in order to like to see and understand where my products fit in their daily lifestyle, and how can I address those pain points in order to make their life easier.
Yeah, I think one thing it reminds me of is thinking about the inequity maybe in like family dynamics. Like if during parties and also community during parties, if all the work falls on a couple people after it's over, like
Val, can you hear us? She just cut out. All right, Roger, go for it. While she comes in.
Pick it up.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be really difficult to drill down to each individual user and find out where in their life is going to be the best place for them to use this. That's a really, that might be an overfitting the problem of overfitting this. From CPG, in my experience, there's always three channels. There's your direct sales, which are usually done through events, which it sounds like you're doing. There are digital sales, which are done through an online store, which I heard you say you haven't set that up yet. Like Etsy is so easy. Like I don't know if it's in your strategy for later, but it's so easy. And just getting something out there going, and then you can start scaling that up later. And then the third one is wholesalers. That's where you'd be selling directly to the stores, and then they'd be distributing it to people on your behalf. So there's three different conversations that you've got to figure out how to have with people, and it sounds like you're pretty good at the events side of thing. I mean, you're comfortable enough selling to people when you go to those events, I imagine. And yeah, it's pretty good. Okay. And digital needs to be developed, it sounds like. And then the biggest one where I think you're gonna have the lowest margin, but deliver the most product. And if delivering the most product means more people get your message, it's going to be through the wholesaling one, the wholesale side. So when I'm thinking about the marketing question that came up at the beginning of this, I wasn't thinking so much about in each person's individual life, but how are you going to hit those three targets, prioritize those three targets, and then figure out what you're going to say to them. And it sounds like you're going mostly on events. Is that your general strategy to stick with events, or do you want to be more digitally focused on this, or eventually go wholesale?
Yeah, I mean, eventually I would like to have those three channels. Like now, because since I'm involved in a lot of other projects, like you need to get revenue for some way, and then that revenue, I'm investing in this. So now, like my only like direct sales channel are the events, because that's what I have time for, which most likely are weekends. So for me, that's the way to go. And now, since a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but like I'm there and they're seeing my face, it's like the familiarity bias, like they have seen me maybe at an event or pitch my project somewhere, and then they invite me to these events to actually show my products. Maybe I will not sell anything, but at least they know me. It's like this brand awareness part. When I say like, oh, this is Lilia, this is Your Green Mermaid, I do this, and then I have like this line of products. So that's now my only strategy. It's very limited, of course, because I will wish to have like an event every single weekend. But some of them are free, most of them are paid. So if I need to pay $200 to be there and I just sell 5 things, it's like I'm losing money there. For example, the event yesterday was free, so at least it didn't cost me anything to be there. But it's like, okay, I want people to actually show. I want people to know my products, to know myself, and then eventually, because you need a lot of touch points to actually get your customers to buy your products. And then eventually the second phase will be, of course, online selling. Since this is like the second prototype, I'm working on a third one because of all the feedback that I received. I'm now developing like the third prototype, and then I'll think like as perfect as it is, or if I wish, I will put it online. And then like the third phase will be like working with these stores that actually sell this type of products to see if there's nobody that can tell people what this is, if they're actually buying this. Because now I'm like explaining everything, talking face to face, why this is important. And then online, you don't have anybody to tell you. Maybe you can write like that story behind the product. And then the third phase, like it's just a product that it's on a shelf with a lot of other products. So that eventually I would love to have like all those channels, and to really find events that are really focused on this, not just massive events, but like focus on the green lifestyle, where people where they go, they already kind of know what their products or what the vendors are about, and they have kind of that lifestyle.
Okay, so yeah, I guess for how to market this most effectively, I mean, there is a story you're telling and everything, but I mean, all the stuff that you're talking about is a data-driven side of it, and so I don't know how much you're digging into. Are you tracking your conversion rates? Like how many people you're talking to at these events versus everything. And we don't have to get very into it, but there's a data angle to this. That's on the it goes with the storytelling side of it, and sometimes I think that gets a little lost, but it doesn't sound like it is for you, which is fantastic. So I would get into an online store. It's so easy, just do it. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you.
So these are good discussion points we're having. We have about 7 minutes left, so I want us to think a little bit about that last question that Lilia is asking us. Mostly, I think this one is going to be the most interesting one, where how can she keep adhering to her values and the mission of her company if there might be other alternatives that reduce her costs? So, like, as you know, like Lilia offers handmade steel straws from the US with the objective of eliminating single-use plastic straws. on the other hand, if she ships her stainless straws from China, the cost will reduce significantly, and the objective of eliminating a single-use plastic straws will still be met. So, like, we understand the ethics side of this, right? Where why not ship from China versus why ship from like a U.S.-based company if the costs are lower, but you don't know what the work conditions are. They might be in China, right? So what are some of the ways that you all think is like can ethics and profit go hand in hand ultimately?
I leave this one off. This one's actually one where you can have your cake and eat it too, because you can have your premium line, your luxury line that you make by hand, and then be very explicit that you have this other line that's made someplace else, and that's probably the one you want to sell online. I think you can preserve, as long as you're transparent about what you're doing and why you're doing it. I think that's probably the easiest challenge. in my view, maybe somebody sees another angle to it.
Okay.
I was thinking something very similar. Like, you can do both of these things. Some people are going to care more about the ethics of like something sourced in the US, and some people are going to care more about a cost-effective way to like meet their like green goals. So both of these things can happen in the same space, and you can just be very upfront about this is like option A, this is its background, this is why it costs more. But if you like can't afford to do that, which is like, I mean, realistic, then I have this other option for you that you may not feel as like warm and fuzzy about. But if you like start there, then you can always move to the like more expensive product later.
Do you think that there is a chance that she would lose customers if she was transparent?
Not if you tell the story. Not if you lay it out right. I mean, if that's a product rollout piece of it, which you do in very small scales, just to test it and see what happens. But people get it. Most people get it, and if you just explain yourself and see what you're doing. That's a later. I think that's a later stage thing. What you're doing right now, making them by hand and selling them directly and at small scale, and opening up an online store to sell more of those consulting practices, and then slowly rolling it out. I think you're in such a great spot. Have you taken on any venture capital yet? Or are you straight up bootstrapping?
Bootstrapping now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like what I'm doing now. And pitching like in some events and things, and actually listening to the people, because not like the minority of people are the ones that like do understand this, but a lot of people, it's like, but what's the difference if I just use my own cutlery and then put it on a Ziploc bag? And then I need to address those kind of questions. I'm like, I don't see why I'm going to spend this much money on this thing, because I don't see like, why am I going to carry my own cutlery? That's weird. That, you know, so it's like, and sometimes at some events I'm like, oh, please stop, because of course I do my presentation in 5 minutes, and then I have 30 minutes of like boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, I know this is not a product for everybody, but sometimes it's difficult for me. Sometimes I say like, I don't have an answer for you. You know, maybe you really don't care about the single-use plastics, and that's fine. I'm not here to tell you, oh, I'm not here to judge you. I'm just here to tell you the facts and the problem. And if you're interested in changing that, here are some other solutions. So that's the whole idea of like developing another product, and then of course eventually like go that into the investment part and all of that, because again, like at this point I need to still find out if this is actually a business, you know, because it's fun and it's very passionate about like offering my products, but then I need to sit down and see my numbers and to see, like, for example, because the straws are made by hand, but this girl in Tennessee, but now she's not answering my phones and my phone calls and my emails. So I was like, how am I going to scale this if I just have like one vendor that does everything by hand, and then she is not replying my emails, you know? And I have found other vendors that have a in China, although sustainably sourced, and they assure that they have been there in the space and everything. So I need to decide at some point if, okay, if they're doing those things there, I need to make sure that they are done like as sustainably and as ethical as the same as here in the US.
It's
Is it just
interesting.
you, or do you have a group?
Mhm.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, the last question. Sorry, is it just you, or do you have a group?
It's just, well, my husband and I. No.
So literally, that's the thing, though. It doesn't have to be one or the other. This person in the U.S. isn't reliable. Cut them. That's it. But there are other options in the U.S., as you know. And actually, when you are having these interactions and executing, it ties back to what Kayla and Maribel was saying, is that you'll understand your customers' pain points more comprehensively, and that will also allow the vendors to come in like this supply chain that you are ultimately going to be executing. Because at the end of the day, what was I saying? Like, I just lost my train of thought. Shoot, what the hell? Okay. Anyways, yeah,
I think. Oh,
go for it. I don't know what.
I think you were getting at something that just popped in my head too. I think you're actually in the lead generation business, not the product business. So it's actually okay if you have 15 different suppliers, because your job is to be like, you're more like an art dealer. And that's actually a great place to start a business, is in that kind of lead gen space. And then you can replace your other vendors with one who's that's going to lower your cost over time. I wonder if, anyway, I thought that's where you're going, Shivani.
Yeah, I mean that was better worded than my whatever happened there. But yeah, definitely. You're in a good spot where you can experiment. Like, at the end of the day, you can experiment very well. We are 4 minutes. We have to close very soon. But does anyone have any thoughts? Last thoughts, questions, anything else before we close?
I do.
Yeah.
Well, this is just a really simple question, but do you like making the products?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't make them by hand because I'm not that talented. But yeah, I really like what I see. Whenever it's kind of like hard to actually sell them. It's like, oh, I want everything for me. But yeah, I really do enjoy and like this.
Okay.
Okay, so one thing, I'm going to share my screen. I've been taking notes of everyone's suggestions in this Google Doc that we shared with all of you. If you have any notes or anything additional you want to share in this Google Doc, Lilia, this is for you to use. So yeah, ultimately this can be a way that you can execute. You can come to us if you need any additional questions, but I think you got a good sense of what the people in this community can help with. But we do have to close. So thank you all for joining. Please